Good afternoon, all. Welcome to another edition of the Sal Greco Show. And I'm your host, Sal Greco. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, please hit the like, share, subscribe button, hit that notification button. And if you're watching on X right now live, please hit that repost button and share this out to all your friends and family. I hope everybody had a good weekend. Of course, there's a lot in the news. So just off the top, what I'm going to say here is we had a little incident, I believe, right in an area where I started as a police officer in Crown Heights and in Midwood. Okay. And there's been a lot going on since Thursday, from Thursday up until now. And I believe they call it protest. It's more of an attempt to riot. Okay. So this came from crownheights.info. And this was from last night. It said Shamram updates on protests as the last small groups disband. So there were 50 pro-Palestinian protesters. Use that word, at great length. I don't know, Palestinian protesters. And the Crown Heights Shamram coordinator, Rabbi Mendy Herkshop, briefed the crownheights.info, which I know this publication from my NYPD days. And they apparently, these protesters that were trying to come from the Barclays Center in, the NYPD did not allow in. Okay. This is just some of the video here on screen of what has been going on there. Okay. Do you see this madness? These people, running in, pushing people around. And then look at the chaos that ensues. Look what the police department has to handle. All because I don't know if this is a virtue signal. This is clearly not Palestinians, okay? They're all dressed up. They're hiding faces. They're running in. They're punching people. Okay? This is from freedomnews.tv. That's Olia Scootercast. If you want to protest in Brooklyn, that's fine. But what had happened is this started to spill into Crown Heights. They deliberately wanted to go there. So when you start to do that, you're deliberately attempting to cause a riot. Okay, let's call it what it is. You want a disturbance. Those people from that community are not going to the Barclays Center to say we're against you. So they're going there looking for problems. And of course, you have Eric Adams, the mayor, who's inept and, not intelligent at all and has no idea how to handle this and is in the news trying to pick sides. But going back to Thursday night, I don't know which night this is because there's so many nights that this is going on, Thursday, Friday. So Thursday night, there's an incident. And unfortunately, I don't know if we could get this video up or not. But there's a certain chief in the New York City Police Department. He's a chief of community affairs, Richard Taylor, okay? And he's well known in this neighborhood because he tries to play the role of, well, I'm Jewish like you, so I'm going to help you. So there is his picture, by the way. So on Thursday night, the community surrounds him because he is nowhere to be found when these incidents start occurring. So people getting beat up. This is his alleged community, and he's nowhere to be found. He shows up late, doesn't know how to speak to anybody, doesn't know how to handle a situation. The fact is, Richard Taylor has never been a commanding officer in his life in the New York City Police Department. He was promoted by, as Eric Dim likes to say, rocket fuel. So this incident was pretty disturbing that he had no idea how to handle and didn't know what to say, and he's completely inept in all of this, even though he's a chief of community affairs. And then Sunday, someone really important came to the synagogue, I believe. And then let's put this up on Sunday. Because as there's an incident breaking out with his cops having to handle it, he's there with another photo op. Look at him taking his photo op. Richie Tess. See where he is all the way to the right. Can't give a helping hand to anyone. Can't show his face when there's a fight or a scrum breaking out. And he certainly has no idea how to handle it because, rumor is even to get on the job, allegedly, Mr. Taylor failed the psych. So I don't know how he got on the police department to begin with. But let's pull up his 50A again, because something very troubling occurred there on his 50A for his disciplinary cases. So what I want to pull up here, if you look there and you say on the viewing the details, this case occurred in 2014. And Richard Taylor gets disciplined, and he only loses 10 vacation days right here. It says, failed to identify himself as a member of the department to an on-duty police officer during an off-duty incident. Did wrongfully make computer inquiries unrelated to the official business of the police department on a department computer. You know what he did? He went to election polls, okay? You know the election sites where there's polls? You know, where cops have to stand there and they ensure the integrity in election because they have to take the voting, the bags, all the tabs on the ballots and then transfer them. Yeah, he showed up there and impersonated a poll worker. That's what he did, because they called 911 on him because they saw a man with a gun at a poll location saying, I'm a poll worker. I don't know if Richard Taylor is fit to be a police officer or why he still is. But again, the rumor is also that I believe it was, I understand, again, this is allegedly, that Dolores Halberstein is the woman or the person behind Richard Taylor's boom in the police department, and somehow he goes untouched. And I can tell you from everything the community tells me, this guy doesn't belong in community affairs, and he certainly wasn't out there with his troops this weekend. And that's a disgusting display that went on over there. And of course, he'll show up when somebody famous comes to the synagogue, or 770 Eastern Park, where there he is, you know, oh, look at me. But when the going gets tough, he's nowhere to be found. And he certainly is not going to try to put his hands on any alleged protester that is trying to harm his community. So with that being said, my heart goes out to the community at Crown Heights, who is handling that pretty well, despite the non-help coming from Richard Taylor, who champions himself as being their champion, as he is, quote, one of them, as he likes to say, and he clearly avoids any kind of, attempt at doing his job as a police officer. And then sticking to the New York City Police Department, especially as we're going to be discussing the upper echelon here. It came to my attention over the weekend that, lo and behold, God darn it, gosh, gee willy, what is Assistant Chief Raul Stevenson? What was he doing? Let me guess. This guy loves nightclubs, gets in trouble recently, having a contest with females, cops, at this thing where they're paying to have some kind of bikini contest or something. They have shirtless contests. And then, what's he doing with that mob associate, self-admitted criminal, Jimmy Rodriguez? He's at Sobro Garden, 26 Bruckner Boulevard in the Bronx. The heir apparent to Consul Frito. The police department, by the way, on the left is the mayor of nightlife, Jeff Garcia, another guy who's involved in a lot of things going on right now in investigations. What the hell is Raul Stevenson doing with Jimmy Rodriguez? Remember, you cannot wrongfully and knowingly associate with someone who is reasonably believed to have engaged in or likely to have engaged in criminal activity. I think mob associate and self-admitted criminal, just watch any podcast with this guy talking about all the crimes he was involved in or whatever the hell he did. What's he doing hanging out with this guy? And there's the other guy, the mayor of nightlife, hit with $350,000 in court judgments. And there's Stevenson hanging out right in the middle, like nothing ever happened. I wonder if the NYPD is going to open an investigation for criminal association on Mr. Stevenson. By the way, he's the Manhattan Borough Chief. And there he is. And he's been in trouble. Remember, with nightclub stuff in the past. He was involved in the whole scandal with Phil Banks. And here he is with their buddy, Jimmy. Somehow, the rules only apply, again, to certain individuals. If you're in the police department right now and you're an officer in the street and they're accusing you of stupid things and they're saying a criminal association case right there in front of you, go call Internal Affairs Department of Investigation. I implore you. Why is this guy who's an executive hanging out with that gentleman on the right of the screen? Once again, this show and this network has detailed the checkered past of one Jimmy Rodriguez and all his restaurants that open as quick as they close. And yet no one seems to be getting investigated for anything. It's only people that associate with someone in a political sense, I guess, or, you seem to do your job and you sign out late or something stupid you'll be investigated for, may even get terminated for, but not if you're hashtag no Jimmy, I guess, right? So to be continued in regards to that. Yeah, it is Fat Joe talking very highly. Another guy, another convicted criminal, another guy you can't associate with if you're in the police department. But we see a lot of people associating with him. Yeah, look, he talks about Jimmy's Bronx Cafe, Don Coquille. You can hear about all this guy's history, and the police department shouldn't be hanging around him. That's just the bottom line. But they continue to this day. You thought it was over with Con Sofrito, but no. You got Sobo Gardens now, so that to be continued with all of that. But now I'm gonna let's go to the main course of today. So today's guest is going to be someone I had on very recently who has been on the forefront of exposing a friend of Jimmy Rodriguez, is the Attorney General of New York State, Letitia James. So they. And Joel Gilbert is going to be on today, has been doing this also with another person I've had on as a guest who's been all over the news. You know who his name is. You know who he is, Sam Antar. So Sam Antar has been out there with Joel Gilbert and actually got together this weekend. So I wanted to play this video of Joel, who went with Sam. They did a little investigation, I guess, mini investigation. So let's play this.
87 inches. Measure it below grade.
87 inches.
Okay, measure it below grade.
$16. 16. So clearly the basement unit is above ground and counts as a floor. This is a 4-story building and not a 3-story. Okay, I'm here with the great Sam Antar at Letitia James' 4-story apartment building that she falsely claimed as 3-story. We've just proven it by measuring 87 inches above ground for the bottom floor, only 16 inches below ground. That counts as a story, meaning it's 4 stories. Letitia falsely claimed it was only a 3-story building. Also, we've got the certificate of occupancy right here that clearly says that it is a 5-unit building. There are 4 units listed on the bell, which I got a photo of, and Sam has a photo. And there's one more basement unit, which is the 5th unit. Letitia James has been a serial liar to manipulate mortgage companies, real estate companies, and tax authorities, committing a plethora of crimes that Sam Antar has detailed on whitecollarfraud.com, and I've talked about on the Gateway Pundit. We've come here today on a field trip to confirm all of our findings. So far, Letitia James, all of her denials and hiring attorneys will not get her out of these problems. She clearly said no one is above the law. Trump is not above the law, and neither is Letitia James.
Oh, there you have it. Joel went on a little excursion this weekend. So on to discuss that and more, a little bit more of his ongoing investigation into Letitia James is none other than filmmaker, producer, and journalist Joel Gilbert.
Okay, Sal, great to be back with you. And yeah, that was our little field trip. Sam and I have both been writing about and researching Letitia James for her, what we described as what looked like obvious mortgage fraud. It had to do with misrepresentations in her applications for many mortgages over 20 years, falsely claiming she had only 4 units in her 5-unit building, which clearly had 5 units. It's got 5 electrical accounts. It's got 5 doorbells and 5 units. She also falsely claimed it was only 3 stories when it was clearly 4 stories. A story counts as a story if the bottom unit is more than 50% above ground. If it's more than 50% below ground, it's a cellar. It's not a floor. We measured it. Clearly, it's about 82% of the basement or the ground floor is above ground. So that's clearly a 4-story building. Now, the incentive to lie, why would she lie when she applies for loans? And why would she lie when she registers it with the city? There's a lot of incentive for someone to lie about it, because when you apply for a loan and your building is only 4 units or less, you tend to get residential rates, lower rates. Also for insurance, you get a lower rate. When you're 5 units and above, like Letitia's building, you tend to get commercial loan rates and commercial insurance rates. Also, if you admit that you have a 4-story building, you're going to run into things like ADA requirements by the city that are very costly. You're going to run into a need for fire escapes. You're going to run into all kind of regulation the bigger your building is. So she falsely claimed also in her HPD filings that it was only a 3-story building when it's clearly 4. So that's the incentive to minimize, is to get loans and not show up on the radar of regulators. And the biggest loan scam that we found for Letitia James, which actually showed up in a referral letter to the Department of Justice on Letitia James last week by Bill Pulte, is her HAMP loan. In 2011, she was paying about 10% on an adjustable loan that she had refinanced in 2005. So she's paying 10% on a $600,000 loan, and she figures, hey, I could refinance this on the back of the American taxpayer at 2.7%, significant savings, about $40,000 a year. But to get this HAMP loan, she had to lie, because the HAMP loan out of the TARP program out of Washington, D.C. was not even available if you had more than 4 units. So she lied and said she had 4 units. She also made a very suspicious hardship claim, because to get the HAMP loan from the federal government, you had to say you've got a financial hardship and you can't afford to pay your mortgage. But she was making about 14 grand a month out of her city council job and from her rents. So the hardship claim, I think, was also false. So Sam and I went out there, like I said, let's go look at it. You got to go to the scene of the crime sometimes. And sure enough, we verified there were 5 units, first floor, second floor, 3A and 3B, and the basement unit with its own doorbell. That's where Letitia lives, actually. 5-unit building in 4 floors. All the evidence is there. And we chronicled that. It's on the Gateway Pundit right now.
So I saw that. I don't know if we could get the article up, but what I wanted to ask you is, I don't know if you saw, she has now Abby Lowell as an attorney. And, he's of infamous lore. He was Hunter Biden's attorney. And he went on, I believe it was on Errol Lewis's show. He's a guy with, we philosophically disagree on a lot of things, but we do agree on some things, me and Errol. And he goes on and he's vehemently defending Letitia James. And I see the statement also from her attorney. What do you say to them saying there's no evidence here and it's just a witch hunt? Basically, they're trying to use the Trump defense when clearly, I don't know, I do see evidence here of some wrongdoing.
Well, about 2.5 to 3 weeks ago, Letitia came out with her first response to this evidence that I've been putting online, and so has Sam Antar. And her first response was saying that she's going to go after Trump, and that these are things, a revenge tour, and she's still going to go after Trump. So she didn't deny anything. Then I think she realized that she was in big trouble, and she hired Abby Lowell, who was Hunter Biden's attorney and is kind of the go-to Democrat Party criminal attorney for criminal offenses who tries to get you out of stuff. So that was pretty interesting that you needed to hire that attorney. And the denials are just don't make any sense with the evidence. Of course, one of the articles I put out is her first mortgage fraud incident was 1983. She's only 24 years old, and she probably could not qualify for a loan to buy a home, and probably didn't have a job or didn't have enough income. So I chronicled how she pretended to marry her father. She told the mortgage company her father and herself were husband and wife. It's in the mortgage documents in 3 places: the front page, the middle page, and the signature page. And they went on to sell the property some years later as husband and wife. So, either she's her father's daughter or she's her father's husband. It can't be both. When she claims that her building is 3 stories, all you got to do is go and measure it with a $5 tape measure I got at Dwayne Reed. And sure enough, it is a 4-story building. So these are just basic facts. You look at her HAMP loan to the federal government, and she's claiming a hardship making 14 grand a month. She's claiming she's wants the loan because she only has 4 units, but the certificate of occupancy says it's 5. When you go down there, it's 5. So these lawyers can make up this stuff, but when push comes to shove, she's going to have to show real evidence, and all the evidence is stacked against her right now.
Yeah, and the other thing I remember is because, you were on the show previously and unveiled that document, and I guess YouTube was not too fond of that document. It had to be edited slightly with the address on it. But there's people that, and it might be even herself, claiming that, oh, that's a clerical error. Can you explain a little bit about that? Because they say it's a clerical error, but yet, Joel, she still went through with the loan. She got the money. It can't just be a clerical error, right? If they're
we've seen even Laura Loomer, who does web surfing and was surfing the web maybe a year or so ago and did see some irregularities. She's tried to say, she's trying to defend Letitia James and saying, it was just a typo. Well, her first mortgage, as I mentioned, it refers to her father and her as husband and wife on the top front page of the loan application, on the second page of the loan application, and on the signature line. So it's not just some typo. When they decided to sell the property 15 years later, they sold it as husband and wife. So it's just ridiculous to say it's a typo. She made refinancing loans repeatedly for 20 years, claiming that her building was only 3 stories and 4 units. She registered every year with HPD as required by every building owner for $13. As you saw in the graphic, she claimed it was only 3 stories and 4 units. Again, it's to gain advantages that she's not entitled to. She's not entitled to a HAMP loan on the back of the American taxpayer at 2.7%. So she lied about the number of units. That's mortgage fraud. Remember with Donald Trump, she said that she played hardball. Anything you do, you can't do something on the back of the American taxpayer. So she consistently has said she has 3 floors and 4 units in every single loan. So it's no typo, it's intentional mortgage fraud. Sam Antar found that when she applied for a loan in Norfolk, Virginia to buy a home there, she claimed it would be her primary residence. Again, you get lower rates. The mortgage companies give you lower rates if they think that the borrower will be living at the property. They feel that the property will be better cared for. So they give you a lower rate. If it's going to be a rental property, it's a higher rate. She lied there. I had another property she bought as a foreclosure in Martinsville, Virginia, where she bought it as a foreclosure and then transferred it to a couple, a mother and son, and she did not appear on the deed as required. And she didn't report in her campaign finances that she owned that property. So again and again, it's a history of 40 years of mortgage fraud. Every single document she fills out is fraudulent. There's no typos, there's no mistakes. And Letitia set the standard when she harassed Trump, saying that any even possible error has to be prosecuted.
And that's the point here. Trying to be fair, and people, if they're still trying to make things political, is that she's literally doing what she accused someone else of doing and try to destroy their life also in the process. Meanwhile, they have a documented history of this stuff. And actually, there's a third wheel to this also, where Jason Goodman, who was on last week, has now shown that there's an actual pattern between herself, Andrew Weissman, a famous Southern District of New York prosecutor, Adam Schiff, who's a senator, was a congressman, and Jamie Raskin, who's a congressman in Maryland, that have all done some form of this mortgage fraud, claiming the property is their primary residence. They don't live there. It's another state. And she seemed to be the first one you found, because once you found out about her, now I'm seeing, you dig into other people, and they all seem to be lawyers too, Joel, which is kind of funny when you see that.
Yeah, well, okay, it's a different story. Congressmen and senators that live in Washington, D.C., there's senators there for 50 years or 20 years, or U.S. congressmen. So there is a debate. They'll buy a home in the Washington, D.C. area where they serve. And then sometimes they say, well, that's my primary residence, but they also have a residence, back in their home state. So that's a different story. With Letitia James, she obviously is the Attorney General of New York State, and she lives in New York State, but she bought a home in Norfolk, Virginia, claiming that would be her primary residence, which would disqualify her from being the New York Attorney General. So that's different from congressmen that live in D.C. Letitia James' fraud, as I said, goes back to claiming that she married her father in order to qualify for a loan. She has complete disregard for the law. And I believe that because she does not follow the law, because she breaks the law, the residents of New York can no longer rely on her to enforce the law, and Letitia James needs to resign.
Or is there now a way maybe that, I know she could be up for investigation, but is there any recourse for New York state voters to say, we don't want this corrupt person as the Attorney General? Obviously, they're breaking laws left and right and have lied and actually misled the public. Is there any recourse for them with this? Is there any way they could, there's a ballot or something they could go to an election board or something to try to impeach her?
Well, the America First Legal just yesterday filed a complaint with the New York State Ethics Organization to investigate her for mortgage fraud. That might be one way to pressure her to answer these questions, and I think she's got no choice but to resign based on the criminal history. Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, could fire her, could replace her. That is possible. And the state legislature could take action. The question is, will people in New York, heavily Democrat state, and the Attorney General's office that she's the head of really take action against Letitia James? Right now, in her statements, she's saying things like, I'm not going to answer these charges. There'll be a time and place later on, but don't worry, I'm going to keep going after Trump. So she's really not being forthcoming. But the evidence is stacked against her, and the Department of Justice can and should investigate based on the referral that they got, because she did take out not a bank loan in New York State, but a federal government loan under the TARP program called HAMP, where she got a 2.7% loan to replace her 10% adjustable loan by lying about the number of units and lying about her income. Can't do that, and no less a public official. So I think there will be accountability here, and I think it's coming.
Now, do you know of any? Has anyone tried to contact you or Sam from the DOJ in regards to any of your work for that criminal referral at all?
Well, we've made our work public, and I noticed that in the criminal referral, they did cite a great deal of our research that we've made public. So it's very straightforward. If you go to the Gateway Pundit, we call it the Letitia Files, and I've had about 7 or 8 articles, and each one has some insight with documents into her wrongdoing. New York State is a public record state, so anyone is welcome to go on to ACRIS, look at some of these other public sites, and you can download and write about the same information that Sam Antar and I have done. We followed it up with an actual visit to the site where we photographed the 5 units and measured up the ground floor to definitively demonstrate it's 82% above ground. So it is the ground floor of a 4-story building. There's even a cellar in addition to the basement unit. So there can't be 2 cellars. So it's just very clear. And Letitia James is kind of working it right now, saying, oh, I'm not going to talk about it, or my lawyer is going to deny it for me. But the facts are the facts, and I don't think she can get out of it.
Yeah, the second cellar. This is now when you get insurance, right, for an apartment building, that would definitely fall under insurance fraud for having 2 cellars.
Well, insurance fraud is one of the results of when you do the mortgage fraud and say you've only got 4 units and 3 stories to get the loan, get a lower residential loan instead of a commercial loan, then you get insurance. And the insurance company is also defrauded because they're insuring a building that they think is smaller when really it would be subject to higher commercial rates. So it's just a history of mortgage fraud, and the irony and the hypocrisy is breathtaking based on what she charged Donald Trump with, her definitive statements that no one is above the law. And if a small person, regular person did this, then they'd be prosecuted. So by her own standards, I think she has to be prosecuted and has to resign.
Yeah. No one is above the law except her and her crony friends over there at that nightclub too. That was another point to highlight there. So what's next for you, Joel? What are you working on? I'm sure you have other stuff brewing here with this. I'm sure it doesn't end just with what you're doing now.
Well, right when I wrote 2 or 3 articles about Letitia and the hemp loan and marrying her father, and I thought I was done with it, but here we are about 8 articles later. The information keeps coming. Every time you look at any document she did, any mortgage she did, any home she purchased, it appears that she did it fraudulently. Now I'm getting emails from people every day saying, hey, I used to live at that building, or, take a look at this, take a look at that. So I'm continuing to research, and every time I look at something, I get another article because there's more fraud involved.
Yeah, I read some. I know one of your articles mentioned how she's a slumlord on top of it, which would would fall in line.
All 4 of her tenants complained about bed bugs. Now, obviously, she's her own 5th tenant in the 5th unit, so she didn't turn herself in for bed bugs.
Yeah.
But the other 4 tenants who rent from her complained about bed bug infestation and reinfestation. She's got people complaining of peeling paint. She's not maintaining the building. And that's ironic because she has championed herself as a advocate for tenant rights and even secured a multi-million-dollar settlement with a management company due to substandard conditions. So the hypocrisy is breathtaking. The irony is breathtaking. And a lot of people see this as karma for her illegitimate lawfare mortgage fraud harassment of Donald Trump.
Yeah. Also, people that live there can't just complain because remember, she's the landlord, but she's also the attorney general. So she kind of still is on the hierarchy of the court system. She's the top person. So to make a complaint there about paint chips or whatever, where do you go? Because in the end, it's her. She would have to recuse herself, which she hasn't of anything.
Look, there's no question that her tenants would have been intimidated from complaining about bed bugs and peeling paint and other problems because she's the attorney general. They might fear that it won't be taken seriously at the very least. But I think because of my articles, because of Sam Antar's work, the tenants are getting a little more brave because we've seen new complaints. She has a total of 17 complaints just since 2023. So she's got a lot of problems to address with her tenants, with the mortgage companies, insurance companies, City of New York for false registration filings. It's a total mess. And I don't see how she can continue as attorney general.
No, this is a highly conflicted individual. I thought Eric Adams was highly conflicted. Boy, she's taking the cake. But remember, Joel, she hung around the same circles because actually the former police commissioner's brother, one that owned that nightclub in the Bronx, the other brother was known as a slumlord himself. So I don't know if they know each other, they're rubbing off on each other, but it's the same song and dance with these people. And I'm thinking too, Joe. Are you doing anything despite anyone else in New York State? So are you looking at anyone else in her circle or in and around her? Other politicians that she's hung around, like Carl Hasty or someone like that?
Look, she's got a lot of relationships. I haven't looked into all of them. I'm still focusing on Letitia. I certainly was thinking, like, where in the world did Letitia James get the very idea to investigate Trump for mortgage fraud? And I think we know the answer now. It's because since 40 years now, she is a serial mortgage fraud practitioner. And she figured, if I do it, maybe we can get him for it. But I don't think she really had any evidence against Trump. He took out legitimate loans. When he took out loans for his large, $100 million buildings financing, the way it works is the banks ask the person taking out the loan to give their opinion of the value of the property. And the person provides an opinion with a disclaimer. That's what Trump did. Even in his trial, there was a disclaimer that said, do not rely on our figures. We're not professional appraisers. This is simply our opinion based on the comps in the area. And the banks went on to do their own appraisals. They don't rely on their mortgagees, guesstimates. So there was no crime. The lenders all said they got paid. They made money. They want to lend to Trump again. There was no injured party. It was absurd. It was just absurd. But it was part of a lawfare program that the Democrats instituted to get Trump, to get Biden reelected. It wasn't just New York. It was in Georgia. Of course, the special counsel Jack Smith, in Florida with the classified documents hoax. It was a strategy that they knew that Biden's policies weren't working. We had massive inflation. We got wars abroad. We got an open border. And they felt that the only way to ensure Biden get reelected, turning out they were trying to get Kamala in instead of Biden at the very end, would be to eliminate through lawfare the Republican opponent. All of those efforts ultimately failed. And Trump, of course, was reelected. And we're seeing that these prosecutors like Jack Smith, Fannie Willis in Georgia, and Letitia, in fact, have their own legal problems now because they're getting the scrutiny that they would not have otherwise gotten had they not engaged in illegitimate lawfare to take away the right of the American people to vote for whoever they wanted to. So Letitia is part of a pitiful, illegal, unwarranted effort without precedent of one political party to prosecute the other political party's opponent to try to propel their failed candidate into another term in office. So that's what Letitia is experiencing now, is the scrutiny that she never would have gotten before.
Well, that's why, I agree with you, because here's what really happened here. She ultimately got a felony conviction on the Trump organization. And in the craziest spin of things up to this day, Trump lost his name on the Woolman Rink and the Ferry Links golf course in the Bronx. He's trying to get that back. But he can't. With a felony conviction, the Trump organization can't just say, oh, we want to apply to have our names restored there, because it's a contract. So her felony conviction, which is appealed or whatever, but the entire process of how she handled that led to what happened now, put him in that situation, at least the Trump organization. And that's very unfair, because as you know, that whole case is a fraud because it's built on rubble and it never even got off the ground. And yet it is the woman that did it who actually is doing the fraud herself, and devaluating and over-evaluating things. Look at what she did. I find this fact, it's unbelievable. You want to talk about lawfare? This will be written for decades to come, I say what you want. People may or may not, how they feel about Trump. It's wrong. This country wasn't built on this. And I don't think that any of this should stand. And I really do think and it's not political. You and Sam have uncovered evidence of criminality in regards to this. And I don't care that she's the attorney general. but she needs to be held accountable. In a court of law, she needs to be held accountable the way she's supposed to be doing as Attorney General. That's how I see it, and I think millions of Americans see it the same way. Otherwise, we don't have a justice system, Joel. It's just, it's all arbitrary and capricious, and the powerful get away with things, or the connected get away with things, whereas the lowest on the totem pole, they could just step on.
Well, look, if Biden or Kamala had won, I had a lot of concern we'd be living in a one-party police state where they would simply continue to prosecute their political opponents. Donald Trump is the son of New York. He's a legend in New York. He built buildings. He had the entertainment business, Miss Universe and Miss America, and the boxing promotions, and you name it. He is a legend in New York. So that's what made it all the more shocking, because Trump established himself in New York and did so many great things for the city. And then to have them make up these charges to try to prosecute and bankrupt him was just shocking. And it's the kind of thing that is done in socialist countries in Eastern Europe and Soviet Union. And the reason for that is because socialist policies don't work. They crash the economy. Nobody wants to work. There's no products to buy. Everything, inflation goes through the roof. So that's why socialist governments have to use force to keep themselves in power, prosecuting their opponents, preventing them from running for re-election. And that was the effort going on. That's how radical the Democrats became. They became a radical socialist party, really starting under Barack Obama. And the effort to prosecute Trump with lawfare by people like Letitia James was a horrifying extension of that ideology of a failed government. Trump is now turning it around, and we're seeing some of these lawfare specialists around the country get scrutinized. And Letitia James, I think I made the case that she committed mortgage fraud, insurance fraud, tax fraud, registration fraud, all kind of illegal activities that she now has to be held accountable for.
Yeah, that's what we're all hoping for, Joel. And actually, Logic's finest want to correct me, and I want to put this out. The New York State Court of Appeals justices each said mutually agreed valuation is not fraud. So I got to let that be known. The conviction is likely to be overturned in that case with the Trump organization. But the fact remains that that will weigh the Trump organization down. So it's not designed to last. It's enough to grind you down and let you suffer and bring hurt to you for an extended amount of time. That's the real part of the whole lawfare business. It's not about winning or losing. It's how much damage can you inflict on whoever it is that you are targeting. And she is definitely someone who's done that for quite a while. She's right now fundraising on top of it. Joe, what do you think about she's fundraising off of what you're doing? You're uncovering corruption. She's fundraising off it. She had $20,000 a plate, I believe.
Yeah, I think she's going to try to play it out as long as she can. I mean, it's still unclear. Apparently, the Office of the Attorney General is the one that hired Abby Lowell to defend her. It's still unclear does that mean the state of New York is paying her legal expenses? It doesn't make sense. And she's trying to raise money, acting like she's the victim. But the facts are the facts. If you go to Gateway Pundit, go to whitecollarfraud.com, you'll read the facts. The documents are all there. New York, open record state. Anybody can read it. She said she married her father. She claimed her 4-unit building, her 4-floor building was 3 floors. She claimed she had 4 units when she had 5. All of those made a huge difference when she applied for mortgages, insurance, all kind of considerations that she was not entitled to save money, make money, and avoid scrutiny. It's all there, and she's going to have to answer for it for real, not just her lawyer making blanket denials.
I think the next thing is going to be what you just said. If the state of New York hired Abby Lowell for her, that she can't do that. This is a criminal matter on her behalf, not the.
Well, that's what we were told. The announcement was that the Attorney General's office had hired this guy, Abby Lowell, to defend her. But people asked, well, wait a minute, why would they hire an attorney to defend her over her personal real estate fraud. But who knows? She may be trying to say, hey, she did say she's being targeted, by Trump. I have nothing to do with Donald Trump. Sam Antar is a Democrat. So this is just black and white facts.
Joel, I think that'll be the next thing you're going to look at is how the state of New York and taxpayers are paying for her criminal defense.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that is unbelievable. You heard it here, folks first. That's the first time hearing about that. Just when I thought this couldn't get crazier.
Yeah.
Joel, where could people see your work, and of course, what's next for you? I'm sure you're going to have another mini investigation of the article up soon.
Well, just go to the Gateway Pundit. My latest article's up there right now. I've got about 8 or 9 articles called the Letitia Files. Keep checking Gateway Pundit. My Twitter account on X, Joel S, middle initial S, Joel S as in Sam Gilbert. There you go. So I post everything every day up to Twitter. And my film, I'm a filmmaker. I've got lots of kind of known as the conservative Michael Moore. People know a lot of my films, Dreams from My Real Father. I've got a new film coming out in June with Roseanne Barr. She's going to tell her story about cancel culture, being canceled for supporting Trump, and her life history and comedy. It's a great movie, RoseanneIsAmerica.com. So check out all my work and hit the links on joelsgilbert.com to my main corporate site of all my films, Highway 61 ENT for entertainment, highway61ENT.com.
Yeah, Joel, but before this is over, I think you're going to have a new documentary just on all of Letitia James's criminality that she's involved in, and quite possibly the latest one you just broke here, that the state of New York is now paying for a criminal defense. That is absurd.
That's what they said. That's what they said. It doesn't make much sense, but that's the appearance anyway. They said it was hired by the Office of the Attorney General. So we're trying to clarify that. Does that really mean New York taxpayers have to defend her for her personal mortgage fraud? Interesting if she believes that's the case.
That is insane, Joel. Joel, keep up the great work. You're definitely, I'm going to have you back on the minute you break something else. I'm sure you're right on the cusp of breaking something else. You may not want to tell us. So I'll be waiting. So will the American public. You are a hero, my friend. You and Sam. When you see Sam, send him my regards. He's a very busy man. I see him everywhere. He's a very busy man. And we all appreciate Sam's work. He's the people's comptroller, as they like to call him. So
right.
Thanks.
Well, thanks for having me back today.
Have a good day with everything, and I hope to see you soon. So there you have it. Joel Gilbert just gave you, if that's true, and that's what they're claiming, that she is using her own office pays for her criminal defense. You just heard another scandal break out in front of you. As corrupt as her buddy Eric Adams was, he paid for his own criminal defense. Well, he can't pay for anything anymore. But his criminal defense, he wasn't dumb enough to have the city of New York pay for that. He was using his fund, which he doesn't even have money for anymore. He had the city represent him in civil matters they can't represent him for sexual assault and all that stuff, and also his cronies. That's where he's misusing taxpayer money. It's in violation of General Municipal Law 50K2. But the state, you can't have the state hire your attorney. That is absurd. That's like, what? But you really, is anyone surprised at what you're hearing with Letitia James, But, to be continued. I applaud their work. Definitely check out Joel. Definitely go to his website. If you haven't, I'm sure with Sam Antar, go to whitecollarfraud.com when you get a chance. Check out everything Sam does. Sam also has exposed the crime numbers. The crime is down nonsense with Eric Adams and deputy mayor now, Kaz Daughtry, and the chief of department, John Schell, who doesn't know when not to lie. He exposes the crime stats for a full year, how it's all fake. They actually misclassify things in order to make you believe, Oh, murders are down. This is down. And they just classify things differently. He has it all detailed. whitecollarfraud.com. That man is an American patriot, Sam Antar. And by the way, he's not a registered Republican. He's not even a MAGA person. So it's insane that she uses that defense. But it was great to have Joel on and mention all of that, because it's important to keep up with the Letitia James files, as he likes to put it. So I also wanted to state today, especially anyone from New York City, today is the city council race. Today is the day to vote. There is who you're going to be voting for. Griffin Fasella, Vito Fasella's son on the right, who's never run for office, very young. I don't know how much experience this guy has in the political sphere or any kind of anything in general. And Frank Morano, who, full disclosure, is a friend of mine. I've known him a long time. He's a former radio host on WABC Radio of The Other Side of Midnight. And he's been on my show. He's been on John and Eric's show, and Finance Unfiltered. There it is when the New York Post endorsed him. He's virtually endorsed by everyone. Frank Morano, if you can, vote for him today. If you live out in Staten Island, for District 51 City Councilman. He is a man of the people. I could tell you this about Frank. I lived in Staten Island a long time, about 17 years. He's known as the mayor of Staten Island. That's what they call him, the mayor of Staten Island. He just knows what's going on in Staten Island. He's been to all those hearings. He's been to community events. He's been to those town halls, all of that stuff. He's filed amicus briefs. He's been to city council filing things there for people. He's really, he cares about the community. If he's your city councilman in Staten Island, believe me, he will do what needs to be done in Staten Island. Right now, he's trying to block these lithium battery places that are going up everywhere. I think they wanted one in Staten Island. They also wanted to build a migrant homeless shelter, whatever it is. Eric Adams got planned in the South Shore. Frank Morano's out there right in the front. And if he becomes city council, when he goes to city council, that's the kind of stuff that he's going to be advocating for the people and trying to stop. So, again, if you can, get out there and vote. Vote for Frank Morano, because he's the man for Staten Island, trust me, especially in this time. Maybe Griffin someday could run for politics or in a political office, get some experience, but kid's not even 20, he's not even 30 years old. So I don't know. He's never really held a real job, and he wants to be a city councilman. I understand. I know his father, Vito Fasella, is like a legend in Staten Island himself, and he's the Staten Island borough president right now. But watching some of that debate, the guy, Frank is a good debater. I know Frank, so I wholeheartedly endorse Frank Morano, and hopefully when this election is over, he'll also come back on to discuss either his win or his loss. But I'm hoping that he wins. I'm confident that I think he's going to win today. I hope that Staten Island, if I know Staten Island, I lived there 17 years, they're going to come out in full force for Frank Morano. Please do not be low information today. That's all I ask. So I wanted to get to something here. I was going to read this article before I get into sports. It's this thing about, this is a headline from the New York Post. Mob associate busted in Long Island prostitution ring involving cop, teacher. Now prosecutors want his $1.2 million Fire Island beach house. This is in Suffolk County. And kudos to Suffolk County. People think, oh, they don't work in Suffolk County. This is amazing because it involves a cop. So what you hear here doesn't just stick to the New York City Police Department. It's everywhere, especially in New York State, especially Suffolk County. Long Island prosecutors are looking to seize a $1.2 million home on Fire Island from the accused boss of a long-running prostitution ring that allegedly operated 2 brothels across Suffolk County with help from a cop and a gym teacher, court records show. The ritzy beachfront home is part of a $1.96 million civil forfeiture case filed against Frank Saggio, a 60-year-old convicted felon and admitted associate of the mafia, who claimed to have worked for all 5 major New York families. This is, by the way, written by Brandon Cruz of the New York Post. The Ocean Beach property was paid for with money raked in through the illegal scheme and purchased by a corporation controlled by Saggio, using proceeds from a brothel in Holbrook, according to prosecutors. And there's a picture of this place. It looks And that's a decent sized place. Sergio West Islip and his mistress, 32-year-old Dana Cardulo, I hope I didn't butcher your name, of East Meadow were busted in October alongside Islip gym teacher Stephen Array, 54, and veteran 6-time Suffolk Cop of the Month, George Tremigliozzi. Am I saying it right? Tremigliozzi, that's in it, 56, and a sweeping 58-count indictment accusing them of enterprise corruption and promoting prostitution, court records show. So that's a cop, folks. It's not just the NYPD that does these things. And this guy, I don't know if this guy's operating on his own, but it is a sad day in law enforcement when a public servant is arrested. Suffolk DA Ray Tierney said at the time of the arrest. He's actually a good guy, by the way, Ray. Sergio allegedly ran the brothels from October 2019 through June 2024. Tremigliozzi and Array acted as managers at the American Girls Spa location in Holbrook along Sunrise Highway, while Cardulo ran the West Babylon spot inside an adult store known as Tunnel of Love, prosecutors said. So I don't know if that means criminal association in Suffolk County. I don't know what they're doing, not realizing that a cop is doing that, but he's working a side gig in a brothel apparently, and nobody cares. But if a police officer in NYPD is wearing white socks, you're going away, pal. You're going to lose 20 vacation days. Oh, where's your whistle on top of it? The crew allegedly forced the prostitutes to sign leases for the rooms they worked out of, charging them $6,000 a month to work in Holbrook and $12,000 a month in West Babylon, but they weren't paid for their services and only earned tips, according to prosecutors. The alleged ringleader used a shell company named after the Holbrook brothers' address, 6801 Sunrise Highway, to collect illegal payments disguised as rent, court papers show. Meanwhile, his wife, Lisa Piazza Sergio, was listed as the company's sole officer, but prosecutors claim it was just a front for Sergio himself. And it shows you, see, they even had a chart here, and it shows that the Suffolk County found them traveling at 88 miles an hour to the alleged brothel. This is from Suffolk County and Raymond Tierney's office. And it shows that they actually have this chart. And you see it, George Tremigliozzi, who's the cop in Sector Car 320, is traveling at 88 miles an hour to a brothel. So he's actually on duty, apparently. Like, that's, how do they not catch this if you're Suffolk County? But, good riddance to how they finally put an end to this stuff. So in July 2022, Sergio unloaded the Holbrook property for $1.2 million, and within 2 months dropped $1.25 million on the beach house at 24 Bungalow Walk, which prosecutors allege was part of a scheme to launder dirty cash from the brothel. While prosecutors try to claw back the house, Sergio, Cardulo, Tremigliozzi, and Array are all still facing criminal charges tied to the alleged racket. All four have pled not guilty according to court documents. This is wild, and only because I want to show you that this is how other departments in the it's not the 5 boroughs, but it's the surrounding areas in New York City, how they handle certain things. Obviously, that's a case of criminal association as well. I don't know how that was able to go under the radar. I would say a cop working in a brothel, kind of like we just saw 2 NYPD cops that, and one of them with very close ties and very chummy to Kaz Daughtry was shaking down prostitutes. So I don't know if this goes hand in hand with that, but it's not just the New York City Police Department that has shady characters there or shady people involved. But this is the dangers of what goes on in New York City and also in the tri-state area, Long Island. And people should be made aware of this. So kudos to Ray Tierney, who's the DA there in Suffolk County. Kudos to Suffolk County that finally put an end to all of this. I'm sorry you have a corrupt cop in the middle of it, but there's signs that point to things going on. You should actually look into it. Instead of worrying about cops that have white socks or don't have their whistle or we're late for 5 minutes, maybe you should look into things like that. But again, if you're too close to the king, rules for thee and not for me. So, I like to also always end the program with sports. I'm a big sports guy. So here we go. Yesterday, my team, the New York Mets, trouncing the Nationals, even though they should have probably won all 4 games. They split. But what does that mean? That means the Mets now 21-9. First team to 20 wins, by the way, this year. And there's Brandon Nimmo yesterday, broke the Mets record. He went 4 for 6, scored 4 runs at 2 homers, 9 RBIs in 1 game. That's a Mets record, by the way. And by the way, I love that jersey. That's a throwback to the 1987 Mets. See that New York script? That jersey was a one-off 1 year in 1987. I remember that. You know, I was a little tight. I was a huge Met fan. I used to watch all their games. Back then they were on WWOR, which was Channel 9 in the tri-state area. That is the jersey that I remember. We were the World Series champions. That's it, 1987. So that is what happened yesterday right there. The Mets 20-9. I'm sorry. So they're 20-9, and they're the first team in the majors to get to 20 wins. And then, of course, Colorado Rockies believe they're the first team to get to 20 losses. 4-24 this year. And Colorado, aren't they the first state to legalize marijuana? I mean, what's going on there, Colorado? Jeez, 4-24. But there you have it. The Mets are on a roll. Remember, we're the second highest payroll in the majors, so I would expect that. And I hope the Mets continue their winning ways. So kudos to them. Kudos to Brandon Nimmo yesterday. Great performance. Let's keep it going. Let's go, Mets. Here's another one. The New York Knicks. I'm not the greatest follower of the NBA. I saw they beat the Pistons. There was some controversy there, but now they have a 3-1 lead in the playoffs. And I love the playoff. The one thing about basketball, the playoffs were always fun. Remember back in the 80s when I was a kid, in the early 90s also, you know, everybody loved Mike. Michael Jordan's the man. He's the icon, greatest basketball player of all time, in my opinion. I know there's other people, Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell. I hear all the names. MJ is the guy that propelled basketball to a whole new level. And I've never seen a player like him, especially in an era like that. Remember the 80s, Bill Laimbeer, the Detroit Pistons, that was eras. They were tough teams. So Michael Jordan had to get tough. He was great, but he was a scrawny little guy, and then he got a little muscle. He changed his style, and then the Bulls went on to win 2 3-peats. So, but there you go. There's the Knicks. I think they get by in the first round. Of course, the second round, I believe the Celtics might be waiting, and that's probably where it all ends for the Knicks. But kudos to them and for winning yesterday's game. But again, I still remember this era right here. There's Bill Laimbeer and Patrick Ewing of Georgetown folklore. Knicks legend as a center, guy that just couldn't win the big games. He just couldn't win the championship. But great player in his own right. Unfortunately, never won an NBA title. But last but not least, you know I left off with highlight, right? And I crushed my own team, the Chargers, right? Because then as everything unraveled, the Devils are now the first place team. There's one last game today later on. You can watch that 5 p.m. or go on. It's Magic City Fronton in Miami. You can watch on ESPN3 or on YouTube, World Highlight League Network. You go to worldhighlightleague.com/battle court. But I'm going to show you the standings here. So the first place team, that's the Devils. The second place team is the Fireballs. The third place team is the Renegades. And now, here's the controversy. The fourth place team was the Warriors. My team is fifth, and the last place is the Cyclones. They never had a shot. But the Devils now, we're going to say the Devils won their game against the Fireballs Friday night. And yesterday, they tied against the Devils. It went all the way to the last point. The last point of the last set. They were actually winning 5-2 and blew it, the Devils. So the Warriors end up winning. Now, if you go back to the standings on the right, what's supposed to – now, I just want you to see it. The 4 teams – read this on the right. The 4 teams finishing with the best win-loss records during the Battle Court season will meet in the playoffs, determined first by total points earned, and if tied first, by most individual matches won, and second by head-to-head game day results. The team with the best overall record during the regular season will compete against the team finishing fourth during the regular season. The teams finishing with the second and third best records during the regular season will compete with each other in the first round of the playoffs. Now I want to swing back to that left side because first place, second place doesn't matter. It's the Devils or the Fireballs. But right there, the Warriors, 4 wins, 5 losses, 6 ties. The Chargers, my team, 6 wins, 7 losses, 2 ties. Doesn't that say the team with the most wins? Why are the Warriors in front of the Chargers? And this is where you'll see the problem of the highlight league. And I love Scott. He runs this beautifully. He's brought this back to life. But here's the issue. It's people bet also. You go to Hard Rock app, I believe you can bet on this. People have bet for things going off of what you posted there. The Warriors did not have more wins than the Chargers. They shouldn't be in the playoffs. So I don't know what that means. Now I'm not saying I'm not for the league or whatever. There's controversy, kind of like this controversy in Major League Baseball, the NBA, NHL. It's always controversy over NFL for sure, especially with the draft that just happened. But that is a controversy. It's advertised as the team with the most wins. If they're tied in points, that's the team that moves ahead. Yet the Chargers are screwed. We're not making the playoffs, even though we ended up tied with the same amount of points. And granted, I'm gonna be honest with you. The Lifestyle Miami Chargers in the history of highlight had the single worst defending champion season ever. They started off winning 3 out of the first 4 games. They were 3-0-1 for the first 4 games. And if you do the math, they went 3-7-1 the rest of the way. Horrible, horrendous. They showed their age. They looked old. They looked tired. One guy in particular looked like he didn't want to show up and play. It was terrible. You would think a team defending a championship that started strong continues. They didn't do that. Heart of a champion, not even close. But they ended up with more wins. They had the most wins in the entire league and somehow tied with this amount, and they don't even make that playoff. So I just want to point that out. Can't advertise that way, especially when there's money involved. There might be questions, so just to throw that out there. But later today, the Fireballs are playing the Cyclones. Basically, it's just for seeding. If the Fireballs tie or win, it's either first or second seed, and then there's a third and fourth seeds. Like I said, you got the Renegades and the Warriors. Congratulations to the Warriors. I don't know if you really deserve to be in there, but you are, in my opinion, a better team than the Chargers. But I don't know if you deserve being in the playoffs because technically you didn't really play by the rules. So, but there you have it. So there's your update on Highlight League Network on YouTube, ESPN3, 5 p.m. You can watch that live, and then the playoffs start on Friday, and the championship would be the following Friday. So you can check that out. We'll see who the believe the spring 2025 champion or is it the winter 2024 the champion will be. Sorry for the Chargers. We'll see what we can do next year. But with that being said, all right, thank you all for tuning in. It's been my honor to be here, my honor to inform all you with all this information. There's a lot to gather and a lot to contemplate in your brain here. But Tish James is epically corrupt. The police department somehow is still associating with this mob associate who happens to be Tish James's friend. And, of course, this situation in Crown Heights needs to be quelled. And the community affairs chief that's supposed to be there only shows up to do photo ops and smile for the cameras. What can I say? It's truly unbelievable. I mean, look at this. This is more video of this Crown Heights stuff. I mean, if you think this is normal behavior, and say what you want, I don't think you should be able to just rummage through the street and do this kind of stuff. One thing is protesting. Another thing is antagonizing people, punching people. These aren't protesters, folks. These are paid agitators. They want some kind of conflict. And to come from Barclays Center to go all the way into, right into the heart of the 770 Eastern Parkway and Crown Heights. Look, we know what you're doing, and it's disgusting. And I hope the police department puts a stop to it. Eric Adams, as corrupt as you are, do better. You're the freaking mayor unfortunately, until December 31st. Thank you, Trump Justice Department, because you had this guy on the hook, but now you want him to run around as mayor, and we still don't know why. So you better get your act together there, Eric Swaggerman Adams. So, folks, I'll see you on Thursday. I would discuss what happened with the Finest Unfiltered, but I think John explained it well when they swatted him virtually the other day. It's disgusting, but what can I say about the internal affairs, right? So tomorrow, I don't know if you can put the graphic up, but John and Eric on the Finest Unfiltered at 8:05, they're going to have a guest on. I believe he's running for city council. I know him. I believe his name is Elijah Diaz. He's going to be on 8:05 Live. He's running for city council in New York City, District 45. So check that out. Eric and John always have good guests on. Elijah Diaz, there he is. He's running for city council in District 45. He'll be coming on. You want to hear his story, what he has to offer for the community. He's a big guy in the community there, and people should pay attention. Listen to what he's got. There's the district, the 45th district of city council there, and it's here it is, East Flatbush and Flatlands in Brooklyn, Flatbush, Midwood, Marine Park, and Kensington, and that's a little bit of the area that you just saw. Where there's all these agitators running around making life difficult. I really would hope that even Mr. Deputy Mayor, I work till 1 a.m, but he has time to go to Newsmax with John Schell. Kaz Dordry, isn't this your arena? Isn't this your playground? You're supposed to be quelling things. So we'll see what's going to happen with that. I really hope they put a stop to this stuff. Yeah. The night of this whole swatting at John's house, by the way, they were on Wise Guys. John Tobacco is a friend of mine on his show. And look, he's talking about the memes that were on the show. I mean, this guy. This guy's a deputy mayor. I mean, really, you guys need to get your act together because things are falling apart at the scenes there in Brooklyn. And I work there, and it's real easy to quell things. It's just you need a little bit of effort and leadership. Don't blame those cops on the streets. By the way, they're left being manhandled because they don't have the tools or the resources to do what's right there. They're overwhelmed while these guys are going on a media tour. Again, here we go. Crime is down, even though it's not. Jobs are up, even though people don't have jobs, and there's vacancies everywhere in the city. But hey, the city's not surviving, it's thriving. That's Eric Adams' own word. Get your act together. 8:05 Live tomorrow. Finest Unfiltered. Elijah Diaz will be on with John and Eric, and this is going to be another good interview, and it's something the voters should watch in New York City. And again, 17:05, 5:05 Live tomorrow. Executive Perspective with Ron Lukash and Ron Layson and Rob Lukash. Check that one out. And of course, I'll be back on Thursday at 1:05, and I might have some breaking news on that day as well. So until then, folks, you have a good rest of your day. Don't forget to check out Highlight. Let's go Mets. Hopefully the Knicks get in, and pray for Crown Heights, man. We don't need any of this stuff. It's funny, Crown Heights, what originally started the Eric Adams platform, might be the one that finally puts the nail in the coffin for him. Because if this goes bad, and it looks like he's siding with the other side, Eric Adams. This guy is on both sides of every issue, just so you know. His career is just winding down epically in a failing moment. How Crown Heights is now coming back around to nip him like karma. He is mishandling this whole thing. Him and his compadre, his heir apparent, Kaz Dordry. But hope to get that together. NYPD, you know what to do. But I don't know what Kaz Dordry and Eric Adams are thinking. But once again, let's pray for Crown Heights that this whole thing stops. So until then, until Thursday, you have a good rest of your afternoon, people. I'm signing off here from from South Florida, a sunny place for shady people.
So this is a biblical moment. You know, when Jesus was on the cross, he said, God, forgive them, for they know not what they do. All these Negroes who are asking me to step down, God, forgive them. Are you stupid?